Wednesday, October 7th, and this is the Hendrick-Hudson School District Board of Education meeting. Can I have a motion to call the meeting to order, please?
So moved.
And a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I have a motion to move into executive session? The Board of Education will convene for the purpose of discussing medical, financial,
Nice, Corey. Nice.
person,
So moved.
or matters leading to the appointment or promotion or demotion or discipline or suspension or removal of a particular person or corporation. Can I get a motion to move into exec, please?
So moved.
Can I get a
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We will rejoin the public at approximately 7 p.m. Good evening. Today is Wednesday, October 7th, and this is the Board of Education meeting. Since we're back in the district office tonight, can we please start with a pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as stated, please?
So moved. Lori.
Can I get a second? Second. All in favor? Does anybody have anything they need to pull from the consent agenda this evening? Then can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, please? So moved. Can I get a second? Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
There was one item pulled from the consent agenda previously, and that is to accept a donation from the Notrika family to the athletic department. The Notrika family donated a portable bonnet backstop to the athletic department. Thank you very much, Notrikas. You just disappeared from my screen, but Corey, thank you very much. Do I have any questions or comments about this? Can I get a motion to approve this donation, please?
So moved.
Can I get a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
I think I have to abstain, right?
You have to abstain. But you don't have to oppose it. You do have to abstain. All right, that brings us to our superintendent's report.
Okay, a number of updates for the board and the community. I wanted to let everyone know that we are going to begin the process of identifying extracurricular clubs and activities that are remote friendly. If we were in back to normal days, if you remember what those were like, we had a number of clubs and activities that took place throughout our schools in the afternoons or even on weekends. Clubs and activities met. We know that we're in a different time, but we also know that we wish to make sure kids have access to leadership opportunities and other different skill sets that our clubs and activities offer. So we've identified the folks who are interested, and now our next phase, given where we are in the pandemic and doing things remotely, is to identify which of those clubs and activities can meet virtually, how they are going to accomplish that, how many kids they believe are going to be able to actively participate virtually, and the frequency of their meetings. So this is not business as usual. So we do need to take that extra step to make sure that there is a remote plan for these clubs and activities, because they will be functioning remotely as we, at the end of the school day, we're asking everyone to vacate the building. So we'll be back to the board with that information.
Just as an aside, will it also, I know currently when we have these activities, they're sort of monitored in terms of whose involvement and attendance and what they've achieved. That will still be maintained?
Yeah, so Mary Pat brings up a point. A number of years ago through our audit committee, it was recommended that we basically have better paper records for these groups in terms of who's participating, the frequency. Yeah, some benchmarks. What are they out to achieve? Did they meet their goals? So all of those are standard. This layer is how are you going to achieve those goals virtually?
And they, but they'll still, that they're going to provide, how they're going to do it, but they're also, after that is achieved, they're still going to maintain those
Yeah.
standards, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yep, yeah. For example, not all of these clubs and activities, may be able to function effectively
Yeah.
virtually. So we just may not be able to offer them, but we may find at some point in the year, there are new clubs and activities or a new interest that arises that is more,
Remote friendly.
yeah, more remote friendly. But yes, that's a baseline standard for those clubs and activities to function every year. And then this layer is basically how you're going to implement that virtually. We have 4 high school seniors who have been recognized by the National Merit Scholarship Program: Elizabeth McDowell, Fiona McGovern, Isolde McManus, and Vanessa Rossi. They are 4 of our current senior class. They are 2021 National Merit Scholar Programs. They're identified as commended students. They are 4 students out of 34,000 throughout the nation. They placed among the top 50,000 on the 2019 preliminary SAT and National Merit Scholarship qualifying test. And we're very proud of these 4 ladies who obviously have been identified as outstanding scholars and are going to have many doors that are open to them. So congratulations to them and their family and our school district for again producing outstanding, talented scholars. We're very proud of them, and we're excited to see where their academic travels take them. 2 weeks ago when we met last, Tom Baker, our athletic director, was with us. He was giving us an update on athletics and some decisions that were yet to be made. Some of those decisions were made, and I want to communicate them to the community so they understand where we are in the process of athletics commencing in terms of a fall, winter, and spring season. So on Monday, this Monday, October 5th, Section 1 met to standardize some guidelines at athletic events. And this is important to make sure that all of the schools, component school districts in Section 1, not only are playing by the same rules, but they have the same principles and protocols, given the fact that we're attempting to have competitive athletics during the pandemic. Some of the agreements are as follows. Spectators will be limited to 2 spectators per athlete for the home team only. So if you are a home team, you can bring, you can identify 2 spectators to come to the game. Visiting fans are not allowed. Our athletic department is going to give each player 2 color-coded badges that they will give to the spectators that they wish to have with them. Those badges will identify who those individuals are, and those individuals will be screened before the contest to make sure that they are not symptomatic or don't have a fever, and more importantly, to make sure that they can be identified for potential contact tracing purposes. We are also piloting through BOCES, we're piloting live sports streaming. So with the limitation of spectators this year, we're going to work with BOCES, and working with BOCES, we've installed some cable wiring and infrastructure for cameras to be fixed in different places in the gymnasium or on our main field. And we'll have a unique website for families to log into and to watch the game. It's going to be like, won't be as high quality produced as watching a professional game, but if you want to watch your son or daughter or friend play when they're on the road, if that school is live streaming, they can view it. And, yeah, it's a way of trying to create more community around athletics, because we know that that's a big thing. Friday night lights and weekend soccer games and big cross country meets in really cool places just aren't going to happen this year. Or for the time being. So we partnered with BOCES and Local Live to be able to live stream those games, and we're excited about that. In 2 weeks, at our board meeting on October 21st, our friend George Oros is going to come back. George Oros wears many hats in our region, but he is the business development consultant for the town of Cortland. Each fall, usually late October, early November, George comes and shares with us different business development opportunities and business development endeavors that the town is engaged in. The goal is to try to create business development within the town, but in particular, the Hendrick Hudson School District, so we can hopefully replace some of the outgoing tax revenue from Indian Point. We know that there's been a lot of conversation and a lot of planning over the last year, so we're excited to invite George back to our board meeting. So he will be here virtually. He'll share a PowerPoint. We'll make sure that the community and the board has that in advance, but it's always nice to partner with the town to see what their plans are. And lastly, another follow-up, the Princeton Plan. We convened a committee last spring to weigh the merits of potentially moving to a Princeton Plan no sooner than September of 2021, so basically in 11 months. We have a stakeholder group comprised of about 30 individuals that represent parents, staff, and some business leaders. That group was slated to meet on March 27th, 2020, and they were 11 days after we closed our district, after the governor closed our district in the rest of New York State. So we're going to reconvene that group later in October or early November. What's going to happen in the next couple weeks is a survey will go out to parents of elementary families to get a better sense of their understanding of the Princeton Plan, what some of their thoughts are, pros and cons, to better gauge what their thinking is. And then we'll provide those results for the board, and then we can discuss how we move forward. We do believe that we still will be able to meet some benchmarks of providing a recommendation, or at least providing some data to the board in January of 2021 as we start our budget process. We have some work to do, but certainly opening schools in a pandemic took priority, and we wanted to make sure that we got our feet well grounded in this academic year before we start talking about next year already. So we're finalizing that survey that will go out to parents. I think at the end of next week, they'll have 2 weeks to complete it up until basically Halloween. We'll be able to turn those results around quickly and then figure out if we want to press forward with investigating this. It's important to underscore that a decision has not been made. We're still in the exploratory phase and the feasibility phase, but that's why we have those stakeholder groups to ask some questions and to help us understand what some of the hurdles may be and how we might be able to educate our community a little bit better should we go down this road. But our target is still to provide information for the board to make a decision in January of 2021, because if we are going to move to the Princeton Plan, we'll need to make sure that that's reflected in our budget, which we're going to start in 3 short months.
Our original timeline was to try to get the decision done by September, so we're actually not too far off the mark with our timing. It's just pushed a couple months.
For, you mentioned survey, and you're saying that you're going to send it to elementary parents. You don't think there's any value in sending it to upper, to high school? Or
yeah, and I may have misspoke. I shouldn't have said that. I've got to go back to see who the families are.
But there's some value to having the people, who've gone through
who've already lived it.
Who've lived it, and to have their perspective. I would absolutely put indicate your what your status is,
right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Whether you're a high school parent or both.
Yep.
But I think if, and use the information accordingly, but I think their input would be valuable.
Yeah, and I may have misspoke, but I know that survey is going out at the end of next week. I have a meeting with our facilitator at the end of this week, so I'll report back in terms of who the audience is, but I believe it is all families.
Are we having any interactive Q&As or anything like that down the road?
Oh, sure, yeah. As this process goes on, we'll do some Q&A. Certainly, we started this process with some input and help from the PTAs, and throughout last year, throughout the whole discussion of that feasibility study and the different models, I presented at various PTA meetings to keep folks in the loop. And one of the benefits of remote meetings is the level of participation and the level of PTA memberships has skyrocketed. So I'm sure I'll be on their agenda, closer to Thanksgiving or the New Year as we get closer to maybe making a recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
With that, I'll turn it over to our team. Enrique, why don't we start with you for just a quick update? We'll go around the horn.
Wait a minute, I have a question about the Princeton Plan. One of the major reasons we were even considering it was because of financial reasons, because we're losing energy in the pilot, etc. So with a bunch of things in the, how do you say it? What's the expression? We have some things that might be coming up that could replace that pilot, possibly. Is that going to be reconsidered too then?
It could be. I don't know.
Right, if we're going to do a cost analysis and we have to kind of wait and kind of see what's that place called? Cortland,
Portland.
see what's approved, see what's going to be built, what kind of money they're going to put into the pot. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and that I think is one of the topics George Oros is going to touch on in 2 weeks of sort of where they are in the process. I don't know if that's going to cover all of Indian Point, but it could play into the calculus. But also, I know that to get approved to do anything in terms of business development, it's years just in the planning before you even put a shovel in the ground. But we can ask that question to George in 2 weeks.
So I assume, we have to take the worst case scenario into account, right? And plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Right, and even if these other things come to fruition, it's not going to replace 100% of Indian Points. And if we can save $1 to $2 million,
It's our obligation to
community
look at
might.
this. It's our obligation to look at this. And however it plays out, but we have to look at it. I mean.
Oh, I agree. We have to look at it. I just want to make sure that we're now rethinking money. That's all.
That's fair.
Okay.
All right, Enrique, you want to give a quick update?
Sure. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to give you a quick update of the exciting things in my neck of the wood that you all love. And the exciting things are that we have a lot more money than last year at this point. Our fund balance this year, we added about $3.7 million. So today, I'm proud to say that today our total fund balance is $15.9 million compared to $11.1 million last year. This is mainly unassigned fund balance that went up from 7.5 to 10.6. We assigned, if you remember, for this year's budget, $3.4 million. And we still have the same amount, a little bit more because of interest, of $1,886,000 from restricted accounts, meaning money that can only be used for specific purposes. So that's a good news. I still have more good news, so you can go happy home. Our draft management comments from our auditors were the best they've been ever. We have very few comments, and 2 out of the 6 or 7 that we have are regarding fund balance, that we have more than we are allowed to by law, both at the general fund level and also at the school lunch fund level. So the school lunch, we're trying to buy new stuff and everything, but we do so well with Claire and the cafeteria and lunch fund that every year we make so much money that we need to keep spending the money. If you remember, we've always had some problems with the high school and middle school treasurer's report. I'm glad to hear that this year we still had some little issues, but much better than any other year. And that's it. I mean, it was a very good audit. and I'm going to meet with the audit committee as soon as I get the final annual report, and then we can discuss it with the whole board and the whole community. Any questions?
Enrique, what program are the, like the extracurricular funds? Do they use something like EPs or anything like that?
I'm sorry, use what?
EPES, do they use something
No,
like
no, no,
that?
no.
Where,
No, they use Excel.
yeah, but Excel doesn't do anything. Excel is just a spreadsheet. So do they have a program where they can generate, like I'm the student fund person in my school and I do all that, all the treasury stuff. And I could like execute reports and like it's a real
No, that's
accounting
what I'm
program.
saying. That's what I'm saying. Here they use Excel. What they do and where the comments were two major, two comments. One, that there were about $1,800 in checks that we paid that are over 1 year old. So someone hasn't cashed those checks. So the question is what to do with them. And obviously, we are going to try to get those people to cash the checks. If not, we'll just keep them. And the second one is still, there were several receipts without the counter receipt. So in that sense, Excel is good enough. If they want to use any other program, they can use it. But the auditors and me and David DeCiccio were happy with their work. But yeah, I mean, I can recommend them to see and talk to the auditors to see if there is a better way for them to present and process their treasurer's report.
I think as long as they're maintaining the numbers, I don't think I mean, the reports are, that's an individual one. I mean, that they, within, each, I'm sure everybody can use Excel and it's easy to sort of upload and to put it all into the same,
and remember that.
So, I mean, it's opposed to these other programs that they may not have. So I would
remember that every year they change the treasurer. So every year a new kid will have to learn how to use it. And I definitely.
No, this is just your adult in charge. Like I'm in charge of the entire district. Everybody's requests have to come through me. They deposit. We have one extracurricular bank account with about 50 different things in it. So
here we have two, one for the middle school, one for the high school, and we have one advisor for each of them. But supposedly, and I don't know how you do it there, Lori, the idea is for the kids to learn how to use it. If it's the advisor who's doing everything, then what are the kids
it's not that I do. It's not that it's like all the kids run all of their clubs. We'll talk another day. This is too.
Well, thank you. If it helps to make this even better, I'm very open for it.
Okay.
Margaret, you want to give some quick updates?
Okay. Hi, everybody. Beginning of school, working with Lisa and Laura to make sure that the kids have what they need, that the teachers have what they need. Working with Beth Gruber to try to put together some take-home bags so kids have some materials, whether they're remote right now or whether we have an eventuality of having to close for something in the future. They will have some things at home that they would normally have had in their classroom. So that's exciting. And the people that I reached out to ask what they wanted, mostly in the special areas, because we took care of a lot of the academics, were very happy to know that we had thought about art, music, and PE, and we're looking to put some materials together. Aside from that, it's working with the consultants that we're using right now to make sure that we're booked and ready to go. With the secondary staff, they have the half-day Wednesday where they have children in the morning and PD or collaborative planning in the afternoon. And then, of course, we have our early release day coming up at the end of this month. So we'll be taking full advantage of that time with training outside and also just department and grade level meetings as well. So beginning of school, normally, COVID aside, is usually just a little bit of a ramp up of we're back and let's get back into the swing of things. And that's very much where we are right now.
How are our remote classes going?
Fabulously, actually. We are lucky to have quite a staff that raised their hand to take that on. And I'm pleased. I think the principals are pleased. I meet with them as a group. They're also meeting with their building principals as a group. We have some planning time set aside for them with a senior partner in the grade level. So I do believe that that is going well.
Excellent. Anybody else have any questions about the opening?
Okay, Lisa, why don't we turn to you?
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, I didn't unmute myself. Margaret, what kind of PD we have for the secondary teachers?
So the secondary teachers at the high school, they're mostly working through Schoology right now and getting their training to make sure that they can use that tool effectively. It's a very powerful learner management system for them. And then aside from that, we've tried to connect them with content people. So the math department has someone, LOTE has someone, ELA, we met with someone and they asked if they could catch their breath before we get back into potentially working with her. Dr. Pashley, who's our local science expert out of BOCES, does a lot of work all over the state and with the state committee. So she met with our department chairs at middle school and high school. So we're trying to make sure that they have a little bit of a balance and take some feedback from them as to how they want to engage and what would be the best thing for the departments in both schools moving forward. And they're making choices independently. So the middle school and the high school, although they're interviewing the same consultants, they may not engage with them in quite the same way or for quite the same reason.
Okay. Lisa?
Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad Enrique went before me because sometimes he gets the good news and I can give other news that I can use his good news as good news. So we actually, when we met last time, I had shared, we had about 19 to 20 new special education students that enrolled in school. Since our last meeting, I can be happy to say we're up to about 23 to 25 new students that are special education that have enrolled in the school. That, of course, is putting some burden on our resources. My team has become very creative in scheduling. So I'm very impressed with what they've done. We haven't added any new staff. We were able to, except for the remote staff, we were able to really work within our own budget. But that is just something to think about as the population continues to build. We're hoping that the transition period from one school to the next has kind of slowed down. We were able to hire a school counselor on literally, I think it was 24 hours after someone walked away. We were able to find someone that has experience and they walked into the high school. We have a new social worker starting in a couple weeks to replace someone that went to another school. And I'm happy to say in conjunction with Laura, we both were able to work together and as Margaret did, she joined the committee as well to hire an assistant director who was approved earlier tonight. So Mr. Matero will be starting on November 9th. We're excited to bring him onto our team. He has a vast knowledge of background and experience. As far as programs starting, I couldn't be happier. I will say that our special ed students started a week earlier than everybody else in our self-contained classes. Those students came like they didn't miss a beat. So I'm very proud of them and the students that have come in. So as Margaret said, it's not a traditional opening, but the way it opened, it was very smooth and I'm happy the way it's going.
Excellent. Anybody have any questions for Lisa? You guys on the screen, do you have any questions for Lisa? All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Laura.
Hi, everybody. Well, as Lisa said, it's been a busy hiring season, which is on top of a busy opening school year. I'll echo again with, Lisa and I working together to hire Jim Matera has been very exciting. He wanted to be here in person to thank everybody. He's very excited to join our community. So on behalf of him, I'm sharing his thoughts. And once he is with us, I'm sure you'll get to meet him and he'll share his sentiments personally. But he was very excited to join our community. He comes with a breadth of experience, and I think he's going to really make a phenomenal impact in our school district. So it was we had a lot of amazing candidates apply for this position, and within, I would say, less than 2 weeks, Lisa, we managed to pull off, 4 rounds of interviews, committee interviews, the final round going with obviously the board president and vice president and Joe and Lisa. So they had a chance to meet him as well. So I'd have him come on board. And again, working with Lisa on trying to get some of these other hires. And as you can see on the agenda, in this time of COVID, FMLA and EPSLA is constantly fluid. So Enrique and I work with all of the staff on their leave. Sometimes somebody might get notice, at night that their child's school is closed, or they themselves may have to quarantine. So things are constantly fluid. We're utilizing Frontline Central, which has been something we brought on last year before any of this started, but it's been really helpful because it's all virtual. So basically all of our HR work is getting done virtually. So Enrique and I can review all the applications. We work with Fran Dodera on that as well. So you'll see at every board meeting, you're going to see revised dates, you're going to see changes to it, because it is just such a fluid situation that we're working on. So sometimes just emailing, a teacher or staff member at night to let them know what to do the next day. We, in the world of technology, same thing, just constantly, we're now up to about 8,875 help desk tickets, supporting students and families and staff. Our tech team is just working nonstop. It is crazy busy. We're still doing Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have Tuesday mornings from 7:30 to 9 and Thursdays from 2 to 4 p.m. We have opportunities for any families who might be having trouble with Chromebooks to do a swap. So usually that works through by putting a help desk ticket in. Our technicians will reach out to them, and those are the set hours we have. The EduTech offices are at FGL, but they're at the end of FGL, and we actually have 2 windows. So we've been using it like a drive-through system. So no one enters the building. They can all do it through the window. So we're making all the swaps in a really safe way. And so that's just continuing. As Joe mentioned, local live. So today we had EduTech staff assisting with the install of that today. So we're excited to make sure that was up and running before our first game. And that's pretty much it. Schoology's up and running, everything with Google. We're still just dealing with hiccups along the way. Things like ClassLink, all of a sudden we'll go down and we get alerted from the company that ClassLink's down or iReady's down. Today we found out Schoology was down. So all these services we're using, again, they're just being taxed by so many school districts. So our teachers and our students sometimes have to be patient with things that are out of our control. But we're doing the best we can. And I think our teachers are just really doing such a great job being flexible and rolling with it and adjusting as they need to do on the fly. Our middle school and high school teachers, now that kids are back in classes, are doing the hybrid model. So they have their laptop, we have webcams on all the desktops in the middle school and high school classrooms. So they're using sometimes both of those. So it's just interesting to see how quickly our staff have sort of picked up a lot of this technology, and some of them are coming up with their own unique, creative ways to pull it all off. So yeah.
I know there was some early problems with the COVID screener. How's that coming along?
Yeah, so we're making some adjustments. The company we work with will be rolling out, I think it's tomorrow, Carmen. We've been speaking with them. The Android and Apple app will be updated, as well as some more functionality for families, because there's an app and there's a screener, and they'll be able to talk to each other a little bit more effectively. And rather than parents needing to identify themselves by email addresses, they'll identify themselves by student ID. So it doesn't matter who may be at home helping a someone get on the bus, if it's a nanny, grandma, aunt, uncle, or mom and dad, as long as they have the student ID, they can screen their child, hopefully being healthy to come to school. So that's some feedback we heard from families and some staff, and we're able to make those adjustments as we go. For those that just forgot about the screener or it didn't work for them, Anthony Marini bought, I don't know how many, but dozens of thermometers that we can get a quick read of their forehead. So sometimes on a Monday morning, we may have a high rate of folks who forgot, but we're able to screen them very quickly.
So 2 weeks into this back to school, are you seeing better compliance with the?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes, better compliance. Figuring out the technology piece of it. Why didn't the app work, but it worked on the screener? Well, that's because the email that you registered yourself for the app is different than the screener. So then we decided to go with, and it will be released tomorrow, a universal ID by child, and it's their student ID. So it doesn't matter what your email is, and you may have 3 or 4 emails, but we may only have one for you. So rather than you figuring out what email is it that the district has, student ID across the board, and we'll be able to get it quicker.
And what about the multiple children issue for families? Is that going to be fixed as well, or is it
for the app?
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know, Carmen, if we got that far with them.
From what I understand, how it's going to work is that you'll have to do one child, and then you can go back in and do the other child. So it won't be a drop-down menu and then continue, but you will be able to use the app for multiple children. You just have to go back in and redo it.
Okay.
Any other questions for Laura? I have one more question for you then, Joe. Do we have any updates on the parent steering committees?
Yes. So we're working with BOCES, as we've talked the last couple of meetings, about basically a parent engagement strategy during COVID that may turn into a parent engagement strategy post-COVID. We don't know how long COVID will be, or the pandemic. So we worked with BOCES to identify different agencies and groups they work with that do this work. So they have hooked us up with a company named Education Elements, who does strategic planning, does parent engagement, does some leadership development. A group that BOCES has worked for a while, and a group that has worked throughout New York State. So we're going to discuss with them, I think, tomorrow at 3:30 or 4 o'clock what the proposal would look like. It basically be a series of focus groups throughout the schools, aiming to get feedback on our remote model, on our hybrid model, and our full day model at the elementary schools, to determine how we can engage parents differently. Now that we're basically running 3 different systems at once. So the tentative timeline calls for some focus groups throughout November and December, some action plans that could come out of those focus groups. So as we turn the calendar page to the new year, we'll have some actionable items that we could respond to try to make the experience that much better for kids and for families.
Great. Any questions about that? Okay, I think that's all I have. Did anybody else have any last minute questions before we move on? All right, so our next section is our committee reports. And I know there have been a couple of PTA meetings so far. You know, the high school is doing their first one tomorrow, which I'm attending. And
BB and Furnace Woods were both last week.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I attended both. No big news out of either. Nothing to really report back.
All right, thank you. And Lisa, do you want to talk about?
Well, I went to Westchester Putnam School Board Association had an advocacy meeting again. I know I just went to one a couple weeks ago, but they're having them pretty frequently now. This one was about goals for advocacy for our region, rather than the NISBA, the New York State guidelines for advocacy. So this is more regional. And so we just talked a lot about where we'd like to have our focus be. We've had a representative from Ulstruff and Associates, which is the lobbying firm that the Lower Hudson Educational Coalition has been using. They came in and talked to us about some trends that they're seeing with with public education and kind of give us some advice on issues that they thought we might be able to really advocate for and have some traction on. So we are focusing right now on public education funding from the state, COVID costs, and getting reimbursement for COVID costs for school districts. Another one of our focuses is special act school districts. And these are ones that they take children from all around the area who have special needs and who are either in hospitals or they're having special educational things that they need to have focused on. And they've kind of been traditionally not well represented and have more funding issues than the public schools do because they don't have that tax base. They take kids from all over the place. So then we also have mandates, costly mandates that we're going to try to focus on too, especially with the budget being cut like we're assuming they're going to be. We're hoping if we focus on mandates that we can say if we just can lose this mandate, we can save a whole lot of money that way. And then the other thing we're going to be advocating for is COVID obstacles. In other words, things that make it more difficult for us to function as a school district because of COVID. And for example, like the Department of Health providing guidance on school district closings, like Joe was talking about earlier. We need to have some guidance, some real clear guidance on those kinds of issues. So those are pretty much it. And we're just moving forward with those particular things. And then the other thing I did, and Carol went to this as well. I don't know if you wanted to talk about it or I could.
I thought we talked about that under
New business.
new business.
Okay, all right, sure. It's not really a committee. You're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
not really a committee report.
Okay.
Yep, we'll chat about that other thing later.
Okay.
Anybody else have any committee reports? You guys have anything? I don't want to forget the people on the screen. All right, very good. All right, so I think that's it for committees at the moment. We don't have a presentation this evening, so our next section is the audience comments section. Carmen, have we had anybody write in with audience comments?
No, tonight we did not have anybody write in, or today earlier in the day by 12 noon. We did not have any audience comments today.
All right, thank you very much. And just for the public's information, we have adjusted that segment a little bit for comments on agenda items. You can now email into Carmen up until the audience comment section. For non-agenda items, you should still email into her by noon the day of the meeting. Okay, and information on that is always on the agenda under the audience comment section and usually at the header as well. So that will bring us to our policy reading. This is a second reading of the Information and Data Privacy Security Breach and Notifications policy. Would one of our policy committee members like to start reading the policy?
I could start reading it. I've got it.
Okay.
Policy number 8635, Information and Data Privacy Security Breach and Notification. The Board of Education acknowledges the heightened concern regarding.
Move to waive reading.
Thank you. Does anybody, this is the same policy we saw 2 weeks ago.
Is there a way we can share it on the screen?
We're working on that right now.
Okay, thanks.
But do any of the board members have any comments or questions about this policy? This is the same policy we saw 2 weeks ago for a first read. And the policy committee has been through this a couple times.
I just noticed last time I had noted the missing of a word or a semicolon or something that has not been changed as of this reading as well.
Okay.
So that is on page 2 at the very end of the second or the end of the first full paragraph.
Okay. Carmen can fix that at a later time. Prevent us from zoning on it today.
As far as content goes, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Lori or Corey, either of you have any comments, questions?
Oh,
No.
I see the document is being shared on the live stream, but we don't see it here in the Zoom.
I see it.
Okay, it's on the agenda on board docs for anybody who wants to look at it. So can I have a motion to approve policy 8635, please?
So moved.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second, if I'm not so moved.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. So that brings us to now our new business and board comments. And as Lisa was trying to say earlier, she and I both attended a webinar by NISBA earlier today on equity and inclusivity, answering the call to action. I had to miss the first part of it, but they always record these for later viewing, and the second half of it was very, very interesting. I thought it was enlightening. They had three panelists: Dr. L. Oliver Robinson, who's the superintendent of the Shenandoah Central School District, Dr. Louvel Brown, who's superintendent of the Ithaca City School District, and Michael Jamie, who's the president of the Elmont Union Free School District. And they talked about how their boards are trying to incorporate feelings of equity, not feelings, but actions to promote equity and inclusivity in their policies and in their actions. So it was very enlightening, and I think I got some good takeaways from that.
One of the things I found in that was they talked about how we need to interrogate our own thinking about equitable education. I thought that was really an interesting way of thinking about it. It's, interrogating ourselves about how do we really feel about equity in education.
Can I, not everybody agrees with this. So I would really prefer to keep politics and all of this stuff out of our discussions, because not everybody is on the same boat as this. And I don't want anything pushed down anybody's throat. That's just my view. So as soon as we start talking about equity and all that kind of stuff, everybody feels differently about that. And education, the whole education system is geared one way in this. And I find that offensive. So, this is really pushing people's agendas down our throats, and I'm not for that. So just to make my stance very clear. So I don't want to go down the road of where we have to get political or anything like that. So that's my personal opinion on that.
Well, I not having read or listened to the webinar, I think by definition.
I've read a lot of it.
But I'm saying by definition, our entire educational system is designed to give, fair and appropriate, and to give the children what exactly they need.
Absolutely. So we have that.
Whatever their needs or their situation is. I don't know that we need to specify. And again, I've not.
And education is always evolving and changing, and I think it's good to examine what you're doing and make sure that you have best practices as far as your personal beliefs go. And
I just want to be very careful, because I'm in a school every single day where I witness things every single day, and I don't really know what to say, but we have to be very, very careful.
Well, we're not starting a big discussion on this tonight. I just found this discussion enlightening for myself.
Okay.
Cause for some self-reflection. You might find it interesting to look at it. I don't know, maybe not. And everybody's going to have a different viewpoint on this and come at it from a different angle. But I do think it's important sometimes to examine our own preconceived notions and to try to widen our perspective and our horizons and try to see how other people think as well. And that goes for how you think too, Lori. I'm not saying that this is the correct way to think. I'm just saying this is another perspective, and I found it very interesting to see the lecture and see what other school boards are doing in this regard. And then also on our new business, Lisa, again, we have proposed NISBA resolutions.
Right. So I talked last time that we met about how there were these resolutions for NISBA that we were going to need to determine how we wanted to vote at the convention on. And I sent to all of you, I had put on the agenda the actual resolution, summary of them, and then the recommendations for being adopted or not. Do we want to go through these tonight, or are we just
No, I
going
think we
to?
just, let us, everybody kind of review these over the
Okay.
next couple of weeks. Lisa and I are both attending the NISBA convention, so I think one of us will be our
A voting delegate.
voting delegate. Thank you. That's those were the words I was looking for. But certainly we want everybody's input on these. I don't think Lisa and I should be making these decisions on our own.
I love resolution 2. If everybody reads it.
Yep.
Yeah, so maybe next time, at our next meeting, we'd like to set aside some time to discuss these kind of one by one and get a feeling from the board on which way you would like us to be voting.
Well, some are slam dunks. I mean,
Some are gonna be slam dunks and some are
others
not
not
as
so
much.
much.
All right, does anybody have anything else for board comments or new business? Just the only other comment I'm gonna make is my family is really loving the later start time for the high school. I'm a high schooler.
Mine too. Mine too.
Well, it might change, so don't fall in love with it yet, high
No.
schoolers.
I know, but we do like it. One a silver lining to the whole COVID remote start thing, remote teaching, learning thing. It was also nice to see the sport teams out on the fields. We both have children who are doing sports this fall, and it's good to kind of get back in that routine as well. And on that note, I think our next meeting is on the 21st. So can I have a motion to close the meeting, please?
So moved.
Can I get a
So
second?
moved. Or second.
No, real second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hi, thank you.